Welcome back, Team Tabletop. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Secret Lairs Out of Time from the new Magic the Gathering Secret Lairs project. And what exactly we're looking for. It's going to be kind of the same as our last episode with the all foil bundles, of course, where I have some very beautiful charts made with our programming language, and I'm just going to run through you guys which one is the most value for money, as well as my own personal opinions as a player of the format, mainly EDH, of why you should be getting some of these and why some of them are just, or a lot of them are, very passable. Let's start off with the non-foil one. What are they calling it this time? They're calling it the world's non-foiliest bundle. Of course. If you bought the non-foiliest bundle by itself, it's 139 euros and 99 cents. However, if you bought all of the non-foil bundles together, it would come to a grand total of 174 euros and 95 cents. Thus, we're getting a savings of 34 euros and 96 cents if you choose to buy the foiliest bundle. The next bundle we're going to be looking at is, of course, the foiliest bundle, which comes to a total of 144 euros and 99 cents out of a total cost of 179 euros and 96 cents if you got all the foil bundles together, giving us a savings of 34 euros and 97 cents. Now, the reason why the foiliest bundle and non-foiliest bundle are so close to price point is because there's a non-foil secret layer here that is not available in foil, which is why the pricing is so darn close to each other. But moving on, we will now have the savings of all the foil bundles and the non-foiliest bundles. If you got them together by themselves, it would be 269 euros and 99 cents. Nice. Out of a total of 284 euros and 98 cents if we were to buy both the bundles together, giving you an additional savings of 14 euros and 99 cents. Now, just by looking at the charts, you can see that buying the bundles is by far the most cost-efficient way of doing it. And if you want both of them, it will save you a little bit more money. However, for this particular secret layer, and with a lot of them actually, there are some that are just very missable. However, there are some inside this particular one that I do think is worth your attention, and it's probably going to be worth your while to actually buy. But in order for us to actually figure that out, we're going to have to go down to my next chart, which is everybody's favorite guess the most value for money layers. Now, as you guys can see from this particular chart, it's bluish and then there's a reddish bar. You'll notice that the red bars only have two variations to them. They're either like a little bit small or a little bit wider like there. That's because the smaller bars represent the price tag of 34 euros 99 cents, which is what the non-foils are, and the longer bars are the 44 euros and 99 cents, which the foils are always going to be costing. The green bluish thing that you're seeing here is the amount it will cost you to buy the singles by themselves. Thus, the higher the blue bar, the better it is value-wise, and if it outstrips it, as you can see here, there are only 4 that outstrips the actual cost of coming in. But let's put on our thinking caps here and go view them as we go along. The first one I'm going to unveil is going to be the Artist Series Johann foil. And now let me just get that out for us. Okay, as you guys can see here, out of a cost of 44 euros 99 cents, we're getting 12 euros and 16 cents worth of value. However, there is something here that is worth your attention. It is the Carpet of Flowers going for 0 euros. Because the Carpet of Flowers has never had a foil printing. Thus, there's no price point. Thus, it's skewing up my charts. And it's very sad. And you guys want to know why? It's because the Carpet of Flowers is by far one of the strongest game pieces inside all of EDH. And we'll go through it in a little bit, and I'll explain to you why that is. We'll be seeing this chart again in the non-foil version, of course, later on, but I'm not going to go through the same cards twice, if that makes sense, because that's just a waste of video time. And the next card we're going to be going through is Karmic Guide for €1.38, the Sanctum Prelate for €5.31, as well as the Sphere of Safety for €5.47, bringing our total to €12.16. Now, let's take a look at each one of these cards together, or by themselves, and then I can tell you guys exactly why they're worth that kind of price point and why you should be picking up this particular bundle. Now, the first card that was on the list at 0 euros is the Carpet of Flowers. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. You probably do want to grab one of these. The effect is, for 1 green, it's an enchantment. At the beginning of each of your main phases, if you haven't added mana with this ability this turn, you may add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. You're against blue. For 1 mana, you basically get their entire mana stash for this one particular mana costing card. It is not banned, although I feel like it's very strong, but let me just run this by you. At the beginning of each of your main phases, so it's not even limited to your first main phase. It's basically if you have something to do during your main phase, you want to do some attacks first, and then you go to your second main phase, and then you can activate the abilities of Carpet of Flower. And who doesn't play blue inside freaking Commander now? I will say that if that wasn't great enough, it's at X mana of any color, of any one color. So it doesn't even have to be the color green. It can be any color that you want or that you need, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. Now, there are two cards that I can think of is a Tomb of Yawgmoth, which turns everything into a swamp. In addition to its other types, there's also the Yavimaya card that recently came out for Modern Horizons 2 that turns everything into a forest in addition to its type. And if we go down a little bit deeper, we have the Blood Moon, which turns all non-basics into mountains. I do not doubt for a second that in the future, there will be a card that will turn or give the ability of island to all the lands on board. It's only a matter of time. And Carpet of Flowers, already a very strong card without that kind of power boost that it needs, because by itself, it's already such a strong card. This is by far one of the few secret layers that you should be picking up if you just need the Carpet of Flowers, because this one's going to go up in value much later on. And if you're playing the game, this is definitely an instrument to winning a lot of your games here. It's such a good value engine, and I don't see why anyone would forego having one inside their collection. But moving on, before we spend too much on this, we have Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide is a 2/2, has flying protection from black, and whenever it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has Echo as well. Now, why is this thing so cheap? It's because this thing has been printed quite a couple of times. I know it was printed inside the Commander decks inside Modern Horizons 2, and it was also inside Modern Horizons 2, the set itself, along with a couple of other decks as well. I think it's also inside the, what was it? The Commander decks for a Forgotten Realm Cephas, I believe. Yes. As you guys say, for 3 white, it's just a reanimation spell. It has the echoing effect, which is fine, but in all honesty, it's not as efficient in terms of mana, and it's good for decks where you just kind of want things to go to your graveyard, which Cephas does. However, for anything else, it's just not very great. Moving on, we have the Sanctum Prelate. Sanctum Prelate, as well, was reprinted inside of Modern Horizons 2. I believe it was I know it was a Mythic card, but I'm not sure it was a Buy a Box promo. I know there was an edge foil version of it as well, but it was recently reprinted, and I have to say, I love this artwork. It just has anime angels. Fantastic. But before the reprint of in Modern Horizons 2, it was going for quite a pretty penny because it was only had like one other printing beforehand. Mind you, this is for the foil version that's €5 currently, but why is this card so good and why should you play it inside your commander decks? Well, as it enters the battlefield, choose a number. Non-creature spells with mana value equal to the chosen number can't be cast. Basically, if you know your play group and you know what kind of cards they have inside their hands, you don't want them to the Demonic Tutor. You're gonna pick even. You don't want them to Wrath of God Damnation. Pick even. If you don't want them to use something like Cultivate, pick odds. It's just it depends on when you can get this thing out. But I can see it being very useful either at the late game or the early game, assuming that there's no way for them to easily remove this. Which, by the way, Swords of Plowshare, Path to Exile, all 1 mana cost cards. Choose one. They can't do it. They have to waste a couple of things in order to get around the Sanctum Prelate, which I think is pretty neat. Moving on to the most expensive card into the fall slot, it is the Sphere of Safety. Sphere of Safety is 4 and a white enchantment. Creatures you can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller plays 8. For each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Okay, so first off, Sphere of Safety itself is also an enchantment, so it procs its own effect. So no matter what, they're always going to be paying 1. However, if you guys know this kind of thing, if you guys have been playing the game for a very long time, it's basically a propaganda or a ghostly prison that costs 2 more and has half the effect. However, I don't believe that ghostly prison or propaganda can protect you against planeswalkers. So, Spheres of Safety does protect the planeswalkers, but it's not great. It costs 4 and a white, so 5 mana for a effect that will probably be relevant. By the time you're playing it, it probably is not going to give you a lot of return on value, to be honest with you. It's very slow, is what I would like to call it. If you have a play group that is a bit slower, you want to play some stacks, and you're able to mix this up with the prelate actually, then you'll be able to kind of lock them out of the game long enough for you to get your win cons on board. If it's a low life game deck, you're trying to get that 40 or 50 life, yo, and then you're trying to like blast them out of the sky, Team Rocket it, you know? The reason why it's so high up in the value currently is because it only had one or two printings beforehand, and even then, it's been around for a long time. It's been around for long enough that people realize that this is not too great of a card. Ghostly Prison, even though it doesn't protect your Planeswalkers, is a lot better because it stacks them for 2 straight away. But yes, let's move on to our next chart here. Which one do you guys think it's going to be? It's going to be the Artist Series Thomas Baxa. Non-foil. Okay, what's in there? Suspense. Okay, what exactly is inside the Thomas Baxa non-foil? Well, the first thing we're going to get is an Obnixious, Reignited for 29 cents. We have a Sire of Insanity for 73 cents. We have a Spellskit for €2.86. And then we have a Silver High Lord for €12.23, bringing our total up to €16.11 on a price tag of €34.99. Oh wow. Isn't that just the best darn value you've seen in forever? Why is Obnixious Ignited so cheap? Is probably what you guys are going to ask me. Well, Obnixious has been reprinted quite a lot of times, and this printing in particular has been included in God knows every damn dual deck, every damn pre-con, the majority of them. Like it's hard not to go a couple of products without seeing this guy reel his ugly head. And there's just such an abundance of him currently that it's not too great. He costs 3 a black, +1, draw a card and lose a life. It's fine, you know. Paying 5 to draw 1, sure. -3 to destroy target creature. It's a good removal spell on top of that when it goes in. And for -8, target opponent gets an emblem where whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life, which is your game ender, and you're trying to get to it, which it's never going to happen because this is a commander, and people won't let you ultimate out because then you'll die. It's okay. It's not fantastic. It's a cheap option that Magic or with the Wizards of the Coast just kind of put into all their products because it is a decent card. Not the groundbreaking by any means, but it does the job. If we were to think about recent cards that kind of do the same thing, there's Professor Onyx from Strixhaven, who is 4 black blocks, so she costs 1 more. She actually lets you look at the top 3 cards of your library, and you put one of those into your hand, and then you lose 2 life, I believe, or 1 life. I can't recall what the cost of it was. And then her minus ability also destroys the greatest power on board. I think it's each player, or is it target player? I have to look at that, but I think it's each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest CMC value or highest power. It's one of the two there. And if her minus ability is really good. Her ult basically forces them to lose card advantage or lose life, which is not that great inside Commander because you start with so much life that if you minus the ability, they can just take the life damage without any recall. However, late game when people's totals are a bit lower, you can force them to lose. It's a really weak Torment of Hellfire that's harder to get off, but you know, it is strong, it's good. And that is why I don't think Obnixious is going to be that great. There are better options currently that you probably should be investing your money in. Although I will say, it's a pretty freaking awesome card art. Okay, the next card we're going to be looking at is Sire of Insanity for 4 black and a red. What does it do? It's a 6/4 demon. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards their hand. Okay, so one thing to note here is that it is not asymmetrical. It is completely symmetrical. You play it, you have a 6/4, you can keep attacking things, and you force the players to discard their hands, including yourself, which could be good or bad if you have like a lot of population inside your graveyard or things that can be played out of it. If I can think about a card that has a stronger effect that's kind of similar, it's that Jinn, the Phyrexian Jinn, yeah. So when it enters the battlefield, you are able to draw up to 7 cards. Now you draw 7 cards at your end step, and then all the other players' hand limits are reduced by 7. So basically, they don't have something like a Reliquatory Tower or something like that. They've lost their entire hand. Sire of Insanity is 2 colors, 2 pips, which is hard to summon. However, it is inside the color for a very particular commander, which is the Kroxa, actually. And he'll work very good in that deck because Kroxa requires cards inside the graveyard in order for him to actually escape and then do Kroxa things. Another good deck that this thing will be inside it is Tergrid. However, Tergrid is mono black, so inside your Kroxa deck, you have to run a Tergrid because why would you not run a Tergrid if you're playing black? Tuna's all like, yeah, I don't know, Trent. Sorry, Insanity just doesn't sound that great. And I would agree with you. I would agree with you. I think it's very situational, but it is a fun card to see on the table, just so it gives you a little bit of a extra spice, you see in those games. The next card I want to talk about is going to be Spellskite. Spellskite is 2, and it's artifact creature Phyrexian Horror. It's 0/4 with the ability Phyrexian, change a target spell or ability to Spellskite. Now, this used to be a very, very popular card because it used to be that you need things to absorb damage, and you don't want your things to get killed. As you guys can see here, it's a 0/4. So inside other formats, you kind of use Spellskite to get the lightning bolts, to grab the shocks, those kind of things on the Spellskite, and then hopefully as the turn rolls over, Spellskite will still be alive. Lightning bolt and shock can hit any target. And sometimes you don't want your Oracle to die straight away. Sometimes you don't want your, I don't know, Circle of Druids to die straight away. So you bring the Spellskite in, and it just acts as a lightning rod. But let's move on to the most expensive card inside this set, which you guys, I'm sure you're all wondering what it is. I already said it before, but it's the Sliver Hive Lord. And this card was reprinted, I believe, inside Modern Horizons 1, which means that it had a reprinting in Modern Horizons 2 as one of the old border etch foils, I believe. And Sliver Hive Lord is Wooburg. Sliver creatures you control have indestructible. Now, it's not as good as the Sliver Mutter, or the one that gives Cascade, I think. But the Sliver Hive Lord is still pretty good. It's a Wooburg, 5/5, and it gives one of the best keywords inside the game, which is indestructible. So now, everyone and their mother has to either Toxic Deluge you out of the game, or else they'll suffer at the hands of all your slivers who cannot be destroyed. And I think that is why this card is rising up in value quite a bit. And it's always been very expensive, actually, because slivers are strong. Slivers are great. And I think it's by far one of the best tribals inside all of Magic history. And you can see why. If you guys want to pick up a Sliver Hive Lord, definitely grab this set, because I do think the Sliver Hive Lord, this particular artwork, is going to be very expensive going forward, and going to be increasing. But otherwise, I don't think this thing is worth picking up if you don't intend on making a giant Sliver deck. Because, you know what, guys, as good as it is, I don't really see this thing costing more than 35 euros. If you guys were to buy everything, you're not going to buy the Obnixious, you're not going to buy the Sire, you're not going to buy the Skellskite, you're just going to buy the Sliver High Lord. And the Sliver High Lord, I'm sure, is only going to be a fraction of the cost of the actual Secret Lair itself, so you can just get rid of all the fluff. It's perfectly fine. Although you do get like a free blueprint card, 1 chance, and a Planeswalker card, I believe, with some of these new Secret Lairs. And hopefully I can show you some of that as they come in next week, or this week actually. Although I'm not too sure when it's coming in. All my friends over in the UK got theirs. But where's Trent's? Where's Trenty Boy's Secret Lairs, huh, wizards? Huh? Moving on. We have the Kamigawa ink foils, or ink. So, let's just go from the bottom top. The borderless Kami of the Crescent Moon is 85 cents. The Heartless Hitsugu is 92 cents. The Riki, the History of Kamigawa, is 2 euros 97 cents. The Toshiro Umezawa is 3 euros 71 cents, and the Machiko Konda Truth Seeker is 12 euros 80 cents, bringing us a total of 21 euros 25 cents out of a total purchasing power of 34 euros 99 cents. Now let's go through it one at a time, as we always have, guys, as we always have. The first card is the Crescent Moon one, which I believe, yes, here he is. He is for blue. He's a spirit. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. He's a 1/3. And why is he so cheap? Well, he's blue. Literally, he's blue. He's the color that is the most notorious for having the best draw cards ever. You don't need a Kami of the Crescent Moon in order to draw more cards. You can just play other cards to draw cards that won't give your opponent stuff, because why would you? And that's why it's only worth 83 cents, because it's a group hug card as its core. It might be good inside decks of mismatched colors, but if you're playing blue already, there are many great options that don't result in giving other players a card, which is detrimental to you in the end, unless you're playing Nekuzar or something like that. Now, if other people are playing Nekuzar, then you're most definitely screwed. So why is Heartless Hitsugu so cheap? Again, the main reason for this one is that it is within Lightning Bolt range. Take a look at his defense or toughness. He's a 4/3, so very easily removed. He costs 3 red, and nothing is worse than not being able to use the creatures that you paid 5 mana for, or playing 5 mana for a creature and getting it removed for a 1 or 2 removal spell. It's not a feels good, guys. Not feels good. And people will definitely, without a doubt, target Hitsugu because his ability is tap. Heartless Hitsugu deals damage to each player equal to half that player's life total rounded down. Now, you had something like a Saronic Resonator. You had something like a, what was the one? Like the Litiform Engine. That is basically a KO. Hitsugu works in the way that it does half the damage, right? Without on the stack, you copy the trigger, and the trigger is destroying half of them. So the amount of damage is already been predetermined. They're not going to check again for another half. So it's not like, yeah, the first one takes half and the second one takes a quarter. It doesn't work like that. It literally just kills them. Another thing interesting to note is that Hitsugu is the one dealing the damage, which means that if they have protection from red for any particular reason, they will not suffer any damage. That said, if he is equipped with something like a Basilisk Collar, he will gain lifelink. So yeah, you'll be healing for quite a bit actually. Mono red life gains, anyone. Moving on, we have Riki, or Reki, the history of Kamigawa, who is a 2 and a green. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, you draw a card. He's a 1/2. Now, draw spells are always going to be great. I'm not going to lie. The reason why this one costs a little bit more is because it's asymmetrical. It is green, and legendary spells. You're always guaranteed at least one legendary spell, which is the one inside your command zone. And you can just play around this, and then you're going to be able to get lots of return of value on the Riki. However, he's very easily removed at only 2 toughness. And one thing I just want to mention with the Riki is that it's a legendary spell. It doesn't have to be a creature, which makes it a little bit better than the Great Henge in that regard, but the Great Henge is most definitely a better card than this Reki. Yeah, if you guys are running some green decks which have a majority of spells and or creatures that are legendary, definitely sub him in, because you're bound to get some value off of him as well. So, Toshiro Umezawa is a 1/black with Bushido 1, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may cast a target instant card from your graveyard. If that spell will be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. He's a 2/2. Easy enough to get destroyed, but he has Bushido, so he might pump himself up by 1 when he attacks and or blocks. Why is this great? It's because it's whenever a creature dies. A card that's similar to this effect that isn't a creature that I can think of on the top of my head is Yawgmoth's Will, or Will of Yawgmoth, which lets you play instant sorceries from, or play cards from your graveyard until the end of turn, which is an extremely good card that's on the reserve list, which is very sad because it suits in so many archetypes and it's not banned. Toshiro is kind of like that. He's not as good in that he can't do everything. It's only instants, but he's better in the sense that you can do it at instant speed. Let's just say that a creature is on the field that you kind of want to kill. You can use Heartless Act on said creature, and then since a creature has died that turn, Toshiro Umezawa will then trigger, meaning that you can use the Heartless Act again. So that's two activations of a removal spell inside one of your turns. And there's plenty of other ways to get these things out, and there's plenty of good instant speed spells in black that will most definitely kill a lot of the people here. And in all honesty, this just means this is just really good in a lot of regards. You might get double triggers off a shooter, Vampiric one to be exact. You know, low power stuff. But yeah, if you guys already own a Toshiro Umezawa, he is by far one of the cards that I recommend getting, which is why the Kamigawa Ink is, you know what, it's very neat. It's not great in returns of value in terms of monetary gain, but it is by far one of my, the aesthetic just kind of speaks to me. I love the Japanese kind of artwork that they did with it. I was a big fan of the Strixhaven Japanese foil arts and alt arts, and Toshiro Umezawa and all the other guys here look positively amazing. Toshiro in particular is really good, and as much as I like to say it, the Crescent Moon guy, yeah, he looks pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. But let's move on to the most expensive card inside this secret lair of the Kamigawa Ink. It is Machiko Konda, Truth Seeker. She's a tree and a white legendary creature. He's a 2/2. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you, that player sacrifices a permanent. Now, what's so good about this one? It's that if you guys are to think about it, there are numerous cards that have effects like that, but they're mainly in black or black-white. The first thing you can think of is No Mercy. Whenever a creature does successful combat damage to you, they get sacrificed or destroyed. I'm pretty sure it is destroyed or sacrificed, so that kind of goes through the clause. There's the Tesla Orza, I believe, who has protection from creatures, and whenever a creature does combat damage to you, yeah, creature gets sacrificed. However, Machiko does something different. It's whenever an opponent deals damage to you, that player sacrifices a permanent. So this basically means if they were to bolt you in the face or shock you or do any sort of damage with you, maybe they have a trigger where you tap it, then you deal damage to all opponents. Machiko would then trigger herself, forcing the person who dealt the damage to sacrifice a permanent. And guys, this has the ability to go out of control quite a lot. But more often than not, no one's going to attack you the moment this thing hits the board. If you stick a lightning grease on it, they're never going to try to target it. They're gonna kill everyone else before they give you the privilege of taking away one of their items. They're never gonna do it. And another card that I can kind of think about that does the same thing or very similar to it is the Phyrexian Obliterator, which I believe is 4 pips of black or 5 pips of black, and it's whenever it does damage, opponent sacrifices that many permanents. Yeah, that's a really good card in mono black, but you know what? It's 5 pips, and I'm not gonna lie, you can't pay pips with freaking mana vaults and mana crypts, but you can play the colors mana from Machiko Konda here, which is why I think Machiko is a very good card to have inside your arsenal if you're playing any sort of don't hit me kind of decks. But yeah, moving on. Oh, would you look at that? We have the Artist Series non-foil Johann Voss, or yeah, this is Johann Voss. Don't you make me doubt myself. We already went through all the cards before, but let's go through them very fast inside non-foil. Karmic Guide is only 19 cents. Like I said, it was reprinted inside MH2. It was inside a commander deck. Of course, it's going to be cheap. Sphere of Safety, 2 years and 36 cents. It's perfectly fine. Not that great of a card. I told you before. Sanctum Prelate actually is 3 euros and 97 cents because it itself is a very easy to cast card, as well as the fact that it has more relevance nowadays that there are so many more counter spells or more removal spells. However, one thing that will never change is the fact that it's either an odd or an even number. So, yeah, Prelate was going to be great. But the Carpet of Flowers is 18 euros and 64 cents for the lowest trending value of it. And I told you guys why this is great. If you don't already own a Carpet of Flowers, get this one. The next one we're going to go to is the Mat is for Blockers foil. Now, why is the Mat is for Blockers foil cheaper than the non-foil version? Well, let's have a look. It's because 2 of the cards on it don't have a value on it, of course. It's always the case, and it's very sad, because the first card here is Orin Frostfang, the second card is Vindictive Lynch, the third card is Mandarin Tower Shell, the fourth card is Tragtusk for 2 euros and 60 cents, and of course, the most expensive card is a Brazen Borrower for 21 euros and 85 cents. And let's go through it one at a time, as we always do, and I'll give you my input on these cards. It is very unfortunate that Orin Frostfang is not applicable inside the calculations of prices here. It is most definitely available in non-foil. Why? It's because Orin Frostfang was only printed once, and it was inside the Commander Decks 2019, I believe, and it's the second most expensive card inside the entire Commander Precons. And it's not hard to see why. It's 3, green, expensive, but bear with me. It's 2 and a 6, so you know what? Very difficult to remove instantly anyway, unless you have like things that don't really care about toughness and defense, which does exist inside this game. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, I love this card because Death Touch green, usually you have to have a mixture of black and green in order for that kind of effect to happen, but for some reason Frostfang is just mono green with Death Touch and gives Death Touch. So here's the thing. A card that's very similar to it is Toski. Toski is a 3 and a green, 1/1 indestructible with this can't be countered, and whenever a creature does combat damage to a player, you draw a card, similar to Frostfang. This means that it scales depending on how many creatures you have. You attack with 10 creatures get damaged true, you draw 10 cards, simple as that. Both of them have that. However, Frostfang has Death Touch, or gives everything Death Touch. And here's the thing. People are not very willing to trade away their real creatures for your Death Touchy creatures, or Death Touchy tokens. Oran Frostfang himself does not actually need to attack. He just gives the benefit to everyone else on the table, or on your table, which makes him so much better. He also doesn't have the drawback that he has to attack every turn, which Toski does have. So I'm not going to lie, Frostfang himself is by far one of the best values of cards on the board. He gives the most threat on the board because everything gets Death Touch, and people are going to be too scared to attack you or block with the Frostfang. So you're going to be drawing cards. You're going to be having these tokens that keep growing because no one blocks them. It's just cascading effect of value of Frostfang. It's just that good. So I would highly recommend Frostfang as any deck that involves token generation. Now, the one that I use my Frostfang for is my lateral decks because, you know, lateral creates a lot of tokens, and you give lateral himself that touch, you know, it's great. No one's going to block it. You're going to create more tokens with that touch, and you're going to have more value. It's just that simple, guys. Basic Mats 101. The next card that we're going to be talking about is the Vindictive Lynch, which is also €0 because it was only reprinted once or a few times, but mainly inside the Commander Precons is where I kind of remember it from when I was doing some research for this particular video. Now, why is the Vindictive Lynch so good? It's because he's a 3 and a black, 4/1. Easy to remove, but you'll see why you want to do that in a second. When he dies, choose one or more. Each mode must target a different player. So, here's the thing. You don't have to target yourself, because if it said everything like choose all and it must target different players, that'd be a different story. But he is very asymmetrical in that you get the benefit. When he gets destroyed, which is kind of what you want to happen anyway, target opponent will sacrifice a creature, target opponent discards 2 cards, and target opponent loses 5 life. Now, he's mono black. What mono black commander would you really want people to be sacrificing creatures or people to be discarding cards? Turgid, of course. Jesus, this is by far a Turgid freaking match made in heaven. I've ever seen one. Jesus Christ. The last one, target opponent loses 5 life, could be situational, but you never know. It comes in clutch. But moving on to the next card. We have Meandering Tower Shell. Very, very old card, guys. Not very good. And it shows you just how much we have gone in terms of power level here. Because Meandering Tower Shell is 3 and a green, same as Frostfang. He's a 5 and a 9, which, I'm not going to lie, giant freaking turtle, very difficult to get past, so he's a great blocker. But nowadays, toughness doesn't mean too much, you know, honestly, you'll get destroyed so much faster if people just are willing to sacrifice life, like that new card that came in, Infernal Grass, I believe, from the Innistrad block. But yeah, getting ahead of myself here, that's a video for another day. So for Island Walk, he has Island Walk, so if they control an island, can't block, just keeps going through. Whenever he attacks, you exile it, returns to the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking at the beginning of the next declared attacker step on your next turn. So he has a delayed attack trigger, which is kind of unique, but at the same time, not very great. He doesn't phase out, he just exiles himself. So all the attachments you put to him, like swords or equipment, they all go back on the battlefield because there's nothing else there, because he's exiled. And when he comes back, he's attacking. So it's a delayed attack trigger that's not great. So instead of doing 10 damage in 2 turns, you're doing 5 damage in 2 turns. It doesn't work out that great. And when you factor in the fact that this card costs the same amount of mana as the Oran Frostfang, it's just bewildering. Night and day, just how good one is and just how shitty the other one is. But yes, let's move on to the last card on this particular list, actually, is going to be the Brazen Borrower. Now, Brazen Borrower is a fan favorite card of mine. Now, Throne of Eldraine is by far one of my favorite sets, but it's only because it destroyed so many formats in its wake that I love it. And Brazen Borrower wasn't one of the broken cards, actually, if you believe it or not. The broken cards would be Oko, then there was a bunch of other ways that you can... was it Cat Cauldron? Oh, Jesus, I hated that. But yeah, Brazen Borrower has the ability, or an instant, which is 1 and a blue, return target non-land permanent opponent controls to its owner's hand. And for 1 blue, you can flash, flying, and Brazen Borrower can only block creatures with flying in the 3/1. Now, 3/1 is quite a lot of damage, but the fact that the 3/1 comes with its own built-in spell is amazing. And the built-in spell isn't bad. Now, non-land permanent would mean you can get rid of their enchantments, you can move back their artifacts, you can bounce back their really expensive creature, but a lot of cards can already do that, but you can also bounce back things like their Planeswalker. So if they're about to ult the next turn, I Brazen Borrow your Karn Liberator, there you go. It's just really trippy. And on top of that, it goes into the exile and becomes a 3/1 later on that you can use to smack your opponents with. And it has flying. So it basically is immune to quite a lot of decks here that don't involve that particular mechanic. So, but is it worth €21? Not really, no. Why do I ask? Because it has been reprinted quite a couple of times. It's been reprinted inside Challenger decks. It's also going to be reprinted inside the up-and-coming Pioneer decks. And The fact that it's still 21 euros despite there being a rotation around the corner is a testament to actually how good this card is. That if you wait for rotation, you'll probably be able to get him on the cheap. While people are trying to remove their 4 copies of Brazen Borrower normal artwork, you'll be able to pick one up on the cheap. So I don't think this one in particular is quite necessary for your collection. It does have some pretty neat cards, Vindictive Lynch and Frostfang. If you don't have a Frostfang, I highly recommend getting this one, because by far, not the greatest artwork, but by far the easiest way to actually get it, because people who buy the precons, they're not going to give you their Frostfangs unless they're mentally not with it, yes. But moving on to our next card, or next list, it's going to be Matters for Blockers non-foil. Oh wow, I wonder why the non-foils are more expensive this time around. So, Meandering Tower Shell, like I said, 6 cents. Trag Tusk, 30 cents. Vindictive Lynch, 8 euros 57 cents, not too bad. Brazen Borrower, 13 euros 50 cents. It's okay, it's pretty good. But Frostfang is 17 euros and 4 cents by herself. What? And this is the first one that actually gets you the money back straight away. So it's 39 euros and 47 cents of straight singles value out of a purchasing power of 34 euros and 99 cents. I've already explained to you why Vindictive Lynch is great, I explained to you why Brazen Borrow is fantastic, and I explained to you why Auron Frostfang is by far one of the best card engines for token decks. So it comes as no surprise as to any of these price points if you guys have been with us the entire time. Let's move on to the next one, which is, oh Jesus. Top 3 here. Number 3 is the one secret lair that's actually never been, that's not inside the foil version this time actually. It's only available in non-foil. So I'm not gonna lie, this one kind of screwed over my code a little bit because it didn't have a foil version, so I had to like do some alterations. But we fixed it for next time. Don't worry, don't you worry. The first card on this list is Karn, the Great Creator, for 10 euros and 51 cents. We then have Teferi, Time Raveler, for 13 euros and 80 cents. And then we have Dak Faden for 19 euros and 71 cents, bringing our total up to 44 euros and 2 cents worth of value. Now, why are these cards so good? Well, I have to tell you now, they're all freaking great. 2 of the cards here are from War of the Spark, the series that got me back into the game, or started off me in the game. And the last one is Dak Faden, which I believe the last printing of him was inside Eternal Masters a very long time ago, before I even started playing. Now, why is Karn Great Creator great? Now, I will preface this by saying that I'm not a biggest fan of the artwork that they have for the Planeswalkers here. I think it's very cluttered. I don't like it at all, so I have to memorize what they actually do. But yes, Karn the Great Creator, opponents can't activate their artifacts, but you can still activate your artifacts. He has the ability that he can turn one of your artifacts into a creature equal to a CMC value, and for -2, you can take a card you own out of exile or on your sideboard outside the game and put it into play. There's no sideboarding inside Commander, except for the Commander itself, along with the, what was the other one? The Companion slot, of course, but people don't really talk about that. So, why is Karn great? If you play Commander, and kind of highish level, people have Mana Crypts, people have Mana Vaults, people have Soul Rings. So many artifacts that will give them value, and the Arcane Signet, Jesus Christ, so many ubiquitous things here. And Karn shuts them all off for 4 mana. And he also pumps himself up, and he starts at 5 loyalty. It's great. He's a bit difficult to remove at 6 loyalty, once you pump him up for your turn. But yeah, it does give you quite a bit of turns in order to get more value out of your mana rocks as opposed to theirs, or to catch up with other players, or just to set them back a lot more. Which is why Karn is good. But the next card is one of my favorite cards of the game ever, which is the Teferi Time Raveler. Now, Time Raveler is fantastic. And it's because it has a special ability. It only costs 3 mana. It's 1, and it is a white and a blue. Opponents can only cast spells at times where they can cast a sorcery. So basically, with Teferi Time Raveler, if you play it during your turn, they can no longer do anything to you. There is not a thing that they can do that is in their hand that they can do, because they cannot cast spells that are instants. They can only respond to things by tapping things for activated abilities, but that's about it. You basically shut them out of the game. And the protection doesn't end there. Because now that you have uninterrupted motion inside your gameplay, when it goes to their turn, they themselves, if they were to play a card, and you play a counterspell, they cannot play a counterspell in response because they can only cast spells at sorcery speed. So, therefore, you lock them out of the game. Essentially, and you have all the counterspells. You're in control now. You are the captain now. That is what I like to say. He is so good. And for +1, his ability is that you can play sorcery speed as though it has flash. So the turn before it gets to yours. Damnation. Wrath of God. Things like that are capable of done. You don't have to worry about it. You destroy everything with your sorcery speed spells, and it comes to your turn and you're basically golden. This Teferi is by far one of the strongest Planeswalkers ever made, in my opinion, and he's so good. I don't see why people wouldn't play him, and his -3 ability is pretty decent too. He lets you bounce a card back from the field onto your hand and draw a card. So you can recur value, you can remove other people's value engines. He's just that great. And if you guys already have one, definitely consider getting this one. But the last one, believe it or not, it's a card that I don't actually own, is the Dack Fayden. Dack Fayden is pretty damn awesome. He's 1 blue and red with 3 loyalties. And he doesn't have an ability like Teferi, but he has an even better loyalty ability. So for +1, I believe, his one was draw 2 cards, discard 2. It's fine, whatever. It lets you kind of fix your card out if you didn't draw the best cards. It lets you populate the graveyard. It does have its uses here. And sometimes you just want to draw the cards, just so you can get more value engines off of things, like Ominous Seas, even though I only seen it play like twice. But his -2 ability is by far one of the strongest ones ever. It's take control of target artifact. There's no condition. You can steal a Chromatic Orrery. You can steal their artifact creatures. You can steal whatever the hell it is they have. This is why Dack Fayden is really good. For 3 mana, you can steal the Orrery. You're up 7 mana +5 because the Orrery taps for 5. You can steal their artifact stuff, like their swords and whatnot. Dack Fayden, if you can put them in, you can definitely steal it. You can definitely ramp up or get more value out of it. Because you know what? People are always going to have mana crypts and mana vaults, and those things are not legendary artifacts. You can have more of them on the board under your control. You steal their Soul Ring, they can't do anything. You steal their mana vaults, they can't do anything. Unless they have another Dack Fayden themselves, in which case you're kind of playing a who dat, that kind of game. And his -6 ability isn't too great. It's whenever you target a thing with instant or sorcery or a spell, you get in control of it, which is it sounds good on paper, and it certainly is very good, but it's very difficult to do. In which case, you have to get him to 6 first, minus get the emblem, and then you have to have a spell that targets everything, which, I'm not gonna lie, is a lot easier said than done in most cases. So, yeah. If you guys haven't gotten these Planeswalkers as of yet, definitely pick them up as of now. But let's move on to the last 2, actually. And we're going to do a small little recap on everything, which is the Kamigawa Ink Foil. Kamigawa Ink Foil, what's gonna be? So, in the Kamigawa Ink Foil, Riki, or Reki, the history of Kamigawa, is €1.31, because he has had a foil printing a few times. Kami of the Crescent Moon is €8.71, 75 cents, apologies, because he's never had a foil printing, except for that particular one. And Heartless Sagawa, same story. Machiko Konda as well for €33.35, so you believe that's quite a bit. That pays for nearly everything. And Toshiro Umezawa is €34.93, because my boy, Mono Black, stealing and playing cards from the grave, just too good of a value engine. So out of a cost of €44.99, you get €87.29 worth of value back. And guys, that's just amazing. What has taken the contender? Who has made it to the top? If you guys are playing close attention, you'll notice that the winner, chicken dinner, is the Artist Series Thomas Baxa. So, Obnixious Reignited is €2.78. Spellskite is €5.41. Sire of Insanity, €8. And a Sliver Hive Lord is €83.01, bringing our total up to €99.20 out of a purchasing power of €44.09. Why? Why is Silver Hive Lord worth so much money? Because people love blinging out their decks. And when you have a really strong tribal deck that you're attached to, you want to bling it out to the max's extent, or the highest extent that you're capable of doing. Which is why, so if you guys ever want to get a Sliver Hive Lord in a foil, but it's just too expensive otherwise, just get this one. You know what? No one's gonna notice that you have a Secret Lair one. It's perfectly fine. But yeah, that is our video for today, everyone. I believe we've gone through all of them already. And I'm just going to give you guys a quick little recap on some of the things that I do think are of note. The first one is the Johann boss with the Carpet of Flowers. You guys don't already own one of those, and you guys want a Carpet of Flowers, or you want to play EDH, I do think it's a neat one picking up. And even if you don't get the Johann boss one, it's fine. Just buy the Carpet of Flowers for €20. It's perfectly fine. It goes much better, money wise. The next one that you want to kind of get is the Mat is for Blockers. Now, Mat is for Blockers. Why do you want it? You want it for the Aura Frostfang. If you already have a Frostfang or a Brazen Borrower, don't get this. Because I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest fan of the artwork on the Matters for Blockers one, but they are good. They do give you a lot of value, and if you don't already own them, definitely have to consider it. The Fairy's Time Trouble, I will say, definitely should get it. If you don't own Doc Faden himself is quite a bit. He's 25 euros by himself, like. Any of those, or their particular abilities speak to you, definitely pick one up from the Secret Lair. Silver Hive Lord, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not a big fan of slivers, but if you do want to bling out your sliver decks, or you want to like invest in something, I do think this is a worthy one to have, because people will be looking for the blinged out awesome version of this. I don't think it's going to be as expensive as the OG foils. However, it will be white. It will be right up there. So yeah, that is our video for today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe for more content like this so we can get more stuff. And tuna. I'll give Tuna a big tweet in a second. But yeah, until next time, everyone. Thanks for watching.